Hey guys, and welcome back to our YouTube channel. Hi. Oh, I didn't have the fucking microphone on. No, I've got it on again. Hey guys, and welcome back to our YouTube channel. In this episode, I'm going to talk you through the project behind me, which is a Volkswagen Caddy Mark 1 pickup. The short story behind this is that it was restored somewhere else originally a few years ago. Someone obviously got in way over their heads on what they were doing. So it's come to us for a lot of rectification work and some upgrades as well. Whilst on the bodywork stages, we found some cracking over the rear quarters. So we decided the only thing to do was to take it completely back to bare metal. And doing so, we found that there was just an overload of product and filler, spray fillers, primers. So it was the right thing to do. And then we found huge wallows in these rear panels all across here. It looks like it's been driven into a few, so it's had a hard life, but the good thing is that there's no rust anywhere, just a vast amount of dents. We looked at originally sourcing complete new rear bed sides. We found them available in South Africa. We were unable to get them transported over here, and this isn't a huge, endless, high-end budget restoration. So rather than paying the £5,000 in shipping for the quarters, we've decided that we're going to have to metalwork what we have here. So the problem we have is that this is double skin, so you've got a cavity on the inside, but you cannot reach the back of the outer skin. So that's where we get issues, because you can't get behind there to stretch, planish, shrink, anything like that. Everything's got to be done from the outside. So the method, or the methods I'm using to do this, a lot of wiggly wire on the spot welder, pulling tools. We've got a single-sided spot welder with a carbon rod for shrinking purposes. We've got shrinking disc as well, using a variety of pry bars, panel hammers, and contour gauges as well. Just to get, we're never going to get this to a metal finish. There's no way in hell, because we cannot get to the back of it to planish it over a dolly. So it's going to be quite rough and ready, a bit of an eyesore to look at, but the idea is to get rid of the wallows, all the low spots, shrink back the high spots, so there's minimal filler that goes in. It'll probably need a couple of light skims, and that'll be it. So this side, I've spent the day on this side already, and it's near enough ready for body working. But I decided to do the video after someone dropped me a line, and I had quite a lot of interest actually about a post I put on Instagram, and people wanted to see more about the methods that go into it. The wiggly wire, so I spot weld it on various places and that, just to gradually go through using this tool. So you press your pad on a hard surface, and you can use that as a lever to pull out the panel. So as you're using that, and the idea is, because you've got a wallow going in, essentially it stretches the metal going in. So what I need to do is pull that wallow out, and then I can shrink it back to a level surface again. That's the idea. It's not that easy because it is thin metal as well. Problem you have as well when you're working with wallows and huge dents is when you pull it back and you planish in it and you metalwork in it, then you fatigue the metal, and then you get oil canning, tin canning, where the metal pops. So I've negated all this now by using heat shrinking methods. So the heat shrinking methods I'm using is the shrinking disc. So I run the shrinking disc over the main high spots, and then quench it, and it'll pull the metal tight again, and the carbon rod on the single-sided spot welder. So if I get a high spot from pulling or prying from the inside, then I'll put the single-sided spot welder on there, apply a bit of heat and a bit of pressure, and it will level the surface out again. So on so what I'm doing at the minute is I'm working on getting these sections of the pickup beds brought up. So I'm leaving this piece. I've done this piece here. I'm working on this piece now, but I'm leaving this piece so you can see the transition between what I'm doing. What I've done is I've drilled 50mm access holes on the inside of the arch so I can get into the cavity with just a massive fucking pry bar, just to tape around the ends so it doesn't stretch the metal too much. And there's just enough to get in there. As you can see, I've just literally just running a sanding block over that, and it looks horrific at the minute. This is single-sided spot welder with our Techna old school piece of garbage, but it's really good old three-phase machine, so it's got a lot of power. Carbon heat rod in the end, and use the carbon rod because it doesn't stick to the metal. So if you bring the camera in closer and you can see what I'm going to do here, so I'm going to pick out a high spot. So you can, the sanding block picks out the high spots. Apply a bit of pressure. See that instantly go in. So what I'll do is I'll keep repeating this process on the high spots. You don't have to go too mad, just try and get the worst of it. And then it's just a painful process of repeating this over and over again until I'm never going to get this perfect, because this has naturally got a bit of a convex shape to the whole top of this panel. So I'm just bringing it out using my contour gauge to like a good enough position where it's quite easily skimmable. At the minute, it's so far in, it's like almost, it's concave, like so far, it's ridiculous. So I'll carry on doing this piece. I'm not going to film it all because it's boring as hell. I've done that piece, and then I'll finish this off a bit nicer, and then we'll show you the difference between the piece that I've worked and the piece that I haven't worked. So yeah, cool, all fun stuff. The more I'm kind of working this as well, the more I'm thinking most of the damage has been done by shot blasting. So obviously some of these shot blasters hasn't really known what they're doing, gone way too heavy and hard on the panels. Telltale signs are the big wallows, and there's a couple of impact marks here where it has been damaged, but majority of it are just huge wallows that are very fatigued and oil canning, which says to me, blasting. Someone's not knowing what they're doing. And it's amazing how much shot blasting can destroy a panel, and quite quickly as well. So the majority of this is pulled out, where I've been pulling this out an awful lot as well. That's come out about 6 to 8 mil, I would imagine. Where I've been pulling this out, it's actually pulling this in as well. So it's made this springy again, so that's started to oil can again. So I will need to revisit this section of the quarter panel again, but it won't be a major amount of work because most of the leveling has now been done on this piece. So this is the old body file I'm using. So after I've been picking from behind with my pry bar, then I'll run over lightly with the body file, and it will just pick out the high spots, take the heads off the real high peaks, and it will just pick up it doesn't take much material off, just basically scratches up the surface a bit more. So it's a bit more of a guide to where your lows and your highs really are. I thought this section here was not too bad before, but I want to run the straight edge across it. There was about a 6 mil wallow. So I've managed to take that out easy enough. That wasn't too bad. I've got a couple of high stretch marks here that I'm going to have to deal with, but apart from that, that's only been about an hour working that single panel there, so that's not too bad. It was horrendous. Luckily the other side won't be as bad because I've got fuel filler hole the other side, so I've got a bit more access and obviously a bit more strength in the panel. With this, there's just no strength in there at all. So with the single-sided spot welder and the carbon rod, as I'm heat shrinking it back, that will bring tension back into the panel as well, hopefully. So I've been battling with this top part of the bedside all day. I've got it to a pretty decent stage now. I can't get it to exactly the shape it's meant to be, because every time I pull it to the shape it's meant to be and shrink it back, I just get tin canning. The metal was just so fatigued. When I was working that and it started making this part of the quarter panel tin can. So what I've done is I've used the body file just to pick out the high spots on this panel, and now I'm just going through with single-sided spot welder again, just applying a little bit of heat and pressure to the high spots, just to try and tighten up the panel. A little bit at the front here, you see that? Hit these high spots with a single-sided spot welder, and that should pull it tight. So now just let that cool for a bit, and I'll probably check in about 5 minutes and see if it's made this panel taut again. So stay tuned. I'm just going to show you the shape of the top panel using my contour gauge. I'll try and capture it as good as I can on camera, so you can see. If you remember, scroll back to early part in the video, if you remember the before stages of the panel compared to now. So you can see with the gauge, there's still a few slightly low areas, but they're mainly down to places that I can't physically reach with anything. And if you speak to any body shop, it's always better to have lows than highs. Make sure you've got lows, not highs. Oh, so I've left it a few minutes now. Let's go back and check the panel where I've heat shrunk it a bit more and see if it's tightened itself up now. Perfect, that's absolutely spot on. What we're going to do before going on with product, we're going to put this on a low bake cycle. So put it in the oven and put it on low bake for about half an hour and just see what happens to the metal, see if it moves, pops or anything like that. Now this side is near on wrapped up. I'll probably wrap up this video now because there's no point in showing you exactly the same on the other side. The reason I'm using the carbon rod for the heat shrinking as well, is because it's more precise, local, it's a lot of heat very quickly, a lot more controllable than a gas torch or a shrink-a-disc. Shrink-a-disc and gas torch, much better in an application where you can get behind the panel and you can panel beat afterwards. But this little carbon rod on the single-sided spot welder has proved itself like very worthwhile in an application like this. So worthwhile bit of kit to get if you haven't already, and if you know you're going to come across a situation like this in the future. So my next stage for this would be to just finish it with an 80 on the DA, just to make sure there's no carbon deposits left in all the heat spots. You can see it looks like it's actually got acne. Just one very critical detail that I've forgot to mention about the whole process is the swage line here. So this waistline is where the chrome trim clips into, and before this was like a string of spaghetti going all the way down. It was just so in and out. And where we've done it while pulling, stretching and bring it all back to shape, now the line is where it's meant to be, which is ideal because you don't want to build up a filler on those edges, because when you put the trim on it's going to look strange. So I'll see if I can capture, unfortunately I didn't get a before of this side, but I'll show you the other side, which is very similar to how this one started, and you'll see how bad it is if I can capture it properly on camera. Not sure if the camera is picking it up too well. Hopefully you'll be able to see that. So it dives in here, comes out there, dives in there, comes back out here, dives in there. So hopefully by the time we finish up with this side, then it will be straight like this side. Hopefully you can see the difference in the footage. So thanks again for watching and supporting us. Feel free to comment, let me know I'm an idiot or I'm doing everything wrong, or if you've liked the video and you want to see more content like this. But yeah, thanks again, like, subscribe, all that jazz, and look out for the next video.